Good morning and welcome. It's Alfred again, and we're going to do another video here about the Develop Your Skills for the Microsoft Office class. We're going to do Microsoft Word Chapter 3 today. So once again, I'm going to go access our ebook, which I need to go to the internet. So I'm going to open Google Chrome. I'm going to go to the book website, which is bookshelf.vitalsource.com. Once again, that's bookshelf.vitalsource.com. I'm going to turn on my little pen highlighter. So that's bookshelf.vitalsource.com. And I now need to press enter. You'll use the login email and password that I've already supplied to you. If you need a reminder for it, feel free to email me, whatever that may be, or check the login sheet that I've given you. Now I'm going to put in the password. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing Microsoft Office. We do our 2019 book. Sometimes you might be open in a page of the book, so just be careful of knowing where you are. I'm going to click here to reopen the book. It takes a second or two for the book to load. It's going to likely remember where I left off. Sometimes you get messages like this, which I'll close. My table of contents is still open, which is great. Remember, it's this button here. I'm going to go to Microsoft Word. We're going to be doing chapter 3 about creating reports. This is kind of a longer chapter with things that some of you may not find as useful as others, things like bibliographies, working with footnotes and endnotes, things that you do in a lot of more technical type writing, but it's also important in a work setting to give credit to other people's work. So I'm going to click this one, creating reports, but it does have some really great things like line spacing, indents. I believe we set some custom tabs. So I'm going to look at the chapter objectives real quick, go over them with you, then I'll size my window appropriately and get into Word and all that. So the learning objectives, we're going to work with columns and set margins, really important stuff. Format text and apply styles. Style is one of my favorites. It's a really quick way to do formatting and build some really cool stuff. Headers and footers, extremely useful stuff. That's text and stuff that repeats at the top or the bottom of a page. Footnotes and endnotes. Citations and a bibliography, table of figures. So those last 3 bullets, starting from add, footnotes through incorporate, those are all related to more of that special type of writing where you have to give credit to somebody else's work. And then we'll learn how to insert a comment. And here they just mention tracking changes. Really managing changes is better when you're using an online system, but Word has the ability to do it if you turn it on, but unfortunately they don't really have much of a lesson with it. So it's not the greatest lesson in the world on tracking changes. So I'm going to go ahead and click here to go to the next page. I'm going to go ahead and point to my title bar here and drag the window off the side of the right, kind of make it take half the screen there. Close my table of contents for now. So I kind of set up for when I want to start the actual lesson. So here it says creating a business report. When writing a business report, you want it to be easy to read. Dense blocks of text are difficult to read, so break up your report with lists, headings, and subheadings, and white space. So the term headings and subheadings relates to styles. Use a clear and easy to read font, such as Calibri, Word's default font, Arial, or Times New Roman. Here's a few principles. I'll let you read those over on your own, because really what I want to help you with are the actual Microsoft skills, the Microsoft Word things that people get caught up with, things like how to set margins and things of that nature. What are margins? Margins determine the amount of white space around the edges of the page. So I'm going to open Word right now just to have Word open. So I click Start. I'm going down to the W's for Word, and I'm going to click it. I'm going to drag it off the side of the screen to make it snap to the other half. I'm going to just click blank document for now. And what they're referring to when they say a margin is this distance from the gray to where your cursor is. That distance right there is known as the margin. So that's what we're going to learn how to adjust or to change in this particular exercise. So that's margins. You change margins from the layout ribbon, and you can click the margins button if you're on a Mac. You go to Layout, Page Setup Group, click Margins to do it on a Windows machine. Indenting text. So indents offset text from the margins. So if my cursor's here and this is where my margin is, if I keep going to the right, that's indenting. If I come back to the left, that's a left indent, but it's going backwards. You can do indents either from the ruler up here. That's what these triangle things are going to talk about. We'll talk about in a few minutes. In fact, I'll talk about them in just a moment. Or you could do them from the ribbon, which we've done before when we did bullets. We did decrease indent, we did increase indent. Those are just for left and right indents as a whole, because there's many different types of indents. And if you look in your digital book here, they're showing you the different types of indents. So an example is this top triangle here on the ruler is called the first line indent. That indents just the first line of text. So if I go here, first line indent. Then if I go, I don't have to go to the book, but if I go to this one slightly below it, the arrow pointing up, it's called a hanging indent. Bullets automatically use hanging indents and first line indents. It's really naturally pretty cool about it. Here you'll get an idea of what the bullet's actually doing. And then the bottom thing, the box, is the left indent. Left indent is the same as the button here on the home paragraph group part of the ribbon area there. And then you have a right indent on the far right side. So they're showing you in the book here an example. This is what the first line indent looks like. Only the first line moves in. Here's what a hanging indent looks like. Like I said, that bottom triangle moves in or the top moves in. Okay. And you can get to those, like I mentioned, from home, paragraph, increase indent, etc. So now I'm doing the actual exercise, develop your skills, W3D1. And it says here, I'm going to open W3D1 social media report for my Word Chapter 3 folder. So I simply go to File, Open. I'm going to click Browse because I think most of you are more used to it that way. Now remember, some of you, your Office student files might already be here in the Documents folder. I have a small little extra additional way in. I'm going to double click this folder, go into Office now, go into my folder specifically, my Word, because we're in Word now, the subject, Chapter 3, and I'm opening up W3D1 Social Media Report. Now be careful, there's two here. There's one that's D1 and one that's D5. I've never kind of liked that about the book when they have two files with similar names, but it happens to be the first one. I'm going to double click it to open it. Once again, I'm going to size my window off the side. And it wants me to do my Save As now and save it as W3D1 Social Media Report Revised. That's all part of step 1, to open it and to do the Save As. So I'm going to go to File. In my case, it's Save a Copy. For some of you, it might be Save a Copy or regular Save As. I can click Browse just because I think you're more used to this window. I'm going to click after the T of report here, and I'm going to add the word revised. And I'm going to still confirm that it's in Word Chapter 3, which it is, so I can click Save. It's on its way saving now. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit, I think. Let me just see if I scroll a little bit to the right, how things look. No, I can actually fit it this way, but I think what I may do is just move my little picture up here, so it's a little bit more out of the way for you. Okay. So I'm going to go on now to step number 2. If necessary, choose View Show Ruler. Well, I see my ruler here, so I don't really have to do that step. If need be, it was View, Show Group. Ruler needs a check mark. Okay, as long as the check mark's there, your ruler is showing up. Step 3, choose Layout, Page Setup, Group, Margins. So that's Layout, my Page Setup Group, Margins. And it says in step 3, notice the preset margin settings. You want 1.5 left and right. So notice these preset settings, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, half an inch. It's called narrow, half an inch all around, moderate, etc. And it says in step number 4 now, click custom margins at the bottom. That means you could set your own margin values of whatever you want. And it says on the Margins tab of the Page Setup dialog box, change the left and right margins to 1.5 and then click OK. So there's a few ways you could do this. Here's the left margin value 1 inch. I can use this little up arrow until I get it up to 1.5, or I could click in here, highlight it, and type 1.5. A lot of different ways to do it. Don't worry about typing the inches symbol. It already knows that it's in inches. So as long as you type 1.5, you'll be OK. Click OK. And you'll see that the wording pushed in a little bit because we now have more space. This space up here, the distance from the edge of the paper to where we have text is now 1.5 inches instead of 1 inch. That's what they say here about noticing the gray. Step 6, below the net generation heading, select the second and third paragraphs which are inside quotation marks. So that's these two paragraphs here. Lots of ways to highlight it. Step number 7 says choose home, paragraph, increase indent. So home, paragraph group, increase indent. Click one time. And it says the paragraphs indent from the left 1/2 inch based on the default tab settings. Step number 8, now we're going to do things from the ruler. Follow these steps to adjust the left and right margins. Step 8A, position the mouse pointer on the left indent marker, the bottom rectangle, and drag to the 1 inch mark. So that means I point here on that little tiny box. Make sure those paragraphs are still highlighted. I like to wait till it says left indent, hold down my finger and drag, cover the number 1 on the ruler and let go. I now have a 1 inch left indent. Step 8B says drag the right indent marker to the 4.5 inch on the ruler. So we're going to the left, because see, I'm at 5.5 now. I don't want to go towards 6. So I point to the right indent. Oh, I must have missed. And drag it to 4.5. Okay. So then it says save your changes. So I can just click save. And I'm going to go on to the next portion of the chapter here. Setting custom tab stops. Default tab stops are set every 1/2 inch, so the insertion point moves 1/2 inch whenever you press tab. You can customize the tab stops if you want other settings. Warning, never use the spacebar to line things up. That's really a golden rule. Please don't do that. Word has 4 types of custom tab stops: left, right, center, and decimal. What they really refer to when they say that is they're referring to how the text will line up when it gets there. Okay? So you can set all 4 tab types using the horizontal ruler. It is critical that you position the insertion point in the line where you want to set the tabs before you set your tabs. Okay? Whether it's a blank line or existing, you have to highlight. You can delete a custom tab by dragging it off the ruler. So when you're going to set a tab, we're going to do it in a minute, you kind of point just below this kind of gray area here. That's where you'll want to click to set a tab. Okay? Using the tabs dialog box to set custom tabs. You can also set custom tab stops in the tabs dialog box. You can specify precise positions for tabs, choose the type of tab, alignment, clear tab stops, and set leaders. Leaders are kind of what you see here in this diagram here. These are leaders. Sometimes it's ... dash, or a line. You see those often in menus, table of contents, things of that nature. The other advantage of the dialog box is it's a little bit easier sometimes for people to put the exact values. To get to that dialog box, you'd use Home, Paragraph Group, click the dialog box launcher. On a Mac, I believe you go to Format Tabs, if I remember correctly. So that would be this dialog box launcher here. We are going to do it in a minute or two. I'm going to move on here to Develop Your Skills W3D2. In this exercise, we're going to set custom tabs and create 2 tabbed tables. Save your report as. I'm not going to do this save as. I don't think we need to do it. We're building basically the same file. Okay. I don't need you to have 11 files by the time you're done with this chapter, unless it's really separately 11 different files, but we're building on the same file. So we'll keep it the same name. I hope that doesn't confuse you too much. Step 2, if necessary, display formatting marks. So you might not remember how to do that, but that's Home in your paragraph group. If you have the group names, you click the backwards looking P called Show Hide. And now I have my paragraph symbols showing. Step 4A, now that we've turned on the formatting marks, we're on step 3. Position the insertion point on the blank line below the section titled Rapid Increase in the Use of Social Media. So here's the blank line below there, because you always want to be on the blank line where you want to set the tabs. Follow these to set tabs for the first table, step number 4. Step 4A says verify that the tabs box at the left of the ruler is set to a left tab. So that's this little box up here. You want to make sure that it looks like an L. If it doesn't, keep clicking the icon up here so it looks like an L again. Step B says click at the bottom edge at the 2 1/4 on the ruler. So here's 2, here's 2 1/2, so it's halfway between the 2. I click right around here, and I've set my 2 1/4. Step C says click the ruler at 4 1/4. So I go here to 4 1/4. And then Step D says type the word media, press tab. Notice that it jumps really far over there to 2 1/4. Okay. And these arrows mean that the tab key was pressed. So that's normal. The backwards looking P means the enter key is pressed. So it says continue typing. Step number 5, continue typing what you see, pressing tab when you need an arrow, enter when you need a new paragraph. So that's flashcards option. I just needed it to get out of the way so that I can type the actual data in. So I'm going to quickly type this data in. I'm not the fastest typist in the world, but I'll do the best I can. And don't worry if things end up on a next page or anything like that. They have a plan for it eventually. So now that I've typed it all in, you'll notice as I pressed enter for each new line, the tab carried down with me. That's normal. Step number 6, highlight the first line of this tabular table. So this media line, I just highlight it, select it, and it says apply home font bold. So home, font group, bold, make it look a little darker. Now we're going to do another tabular table here. Position the insertion point on the first blank line below the last paragraph. So I'm going to scroll down to page 2. Notice how there's 2 paragraph symbols. I'm just going to click at the first one. And it says follow these steps to set tabs for and type the second table. Set left tabs at 2 1/4 again. So make sure this is an L, 2 1/4 again. And then they said 3 1/2 this time. So here's 3, the big line in between 3 and 4, 3 1/2. And it says type the table as shown and apply bold to the first line of text. So if I click this, normally it makes it a little bigger, a little easier to read. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure my cursor's there. I'm going to type this in real quick. So it's media, tab, launched, tab, 2015 users. No tab now, because you can see the backwards looking P means enter. I press enter. So I'm going to continue typing this, and I'm actually going to pause the video briefly so you don't have to watch me type, and I'll be back with you in just a second. Okay, so I just got done doing all my typing. I can close the little window here. It says save the file and close it. So we're all done with this file. As you can see, tabs are a neat way to line things up. Although me personally, I prefer tables, which you learned in the last chapter, and just hide the lines. It's just as flexible to drag your column list to get this kind of look. And I have forgotten to do the bold. So before I save and close it, I do need to highlight my first line here. Home, font, bold. Can click away if I want. Save it, and then do the file, close. I'm going to move on to the next portion of the book here, which is about formatting text and using styles. A style is one of the most powerful formatting tools. It's a group of formats enabling you to apply multiple formats to a block of text all at once. Styles are based on the current template's theme, which is a set of colors, fonts, and graphic effects. There are styles for document elements such as headings, titles, and special character formats, providing consistent formatting throughout a document. Spacing in letters, the default line spacing in Word is 2019 is 1.08 rather than the traditional 1.0 single spacing. It adds an extra 8% more space between lines than regular single spacing. It also adds 8 points of space after paragraphs. Therefore, rather than tapping enter twice at the end of a paragraph, you tap enter once and Word adds the extra spacing. So those of you who've done word processing type stuff in the past, you remember having to press enter twice to get that blank between the paragraphs. You no longer have to do that because of the way they've set up these apps now. So when you choose the new blank document template on the start screen, file new basically, you're getting that single spaced, that 1.08 spacing and everything. But if you want to make it single spaced, you can go from file new, you can choose the single spaced blank template, or you can use the line and paragraph spacing button to apply. You can also apply traditional line spacing using the blank template. That's what I just mentioned. You can go to the template, changing spacing using the line and paragraph button. That's from your home ribbon, paragraph group. It's this button here. I know it's not lit up. You don't see it so well, but I just wanted to point it out. That's what they always talk about in the book here with the gray box and the pink lines. They're reminding you where in Microsoft Word you find the command. I'm going to go here to the next exercise now. Develop your skills W3D3. Step number 1 says choose File New to display the templates. So File, New, okay? And they want me to choose single-spaced blank. So it's this one here. See the wording single-spaced blank? Now you can double-click it. It will come right up faster, or you can click once, and then you have to click Create. Whichever one tickles your fancy. So we have this nice blank piece of paper ready for us to do. Step number 4, choose File and Save. I know the book says Save As, but technically a regular save is the same thing. And navigate your Word Chapter 3 folder and name it W3D3 Cover Letter. So I'm going to go to File, Save. Now I see Word Chapter 3 over here. So I don't have to go browse and all that. I can click this. And if I want to, I can click Browse, because I know some of you like this window better, but you can see it didn't send me straight to that folder. So I'm going to click Cancel there. I'm going to go here to put my file name in. Okay? And it's W3-D3-cover LTR. And I can click Save here. And remember, after you saved it, the name appears in the title bar. Step number 5, type NOVE. And notice how it suggests November. That's called autocomplete. And it says press the Enter key. This is step number 5. And it finished typing the word November. To me, that's slower than typing it out completely. And I'm going to do the finished of the typing here in step number 7, 24, 2021. Step 8, press Enter 3 times. And then, if necessary, choose Home Paragraph Show Hide to display formatting marks. Mine's already on because you can see the backwards looking P's. And I'm just going to do the typing that they say to do here in step number 10. It says, and they tell me when to press the Enter key, right? My little typo there. Oops. Actually, they do like 2 spaces after that for some reason. And they sometimes like 2 here. Just makes it a little easier on your mail courier. Then I do Enter, Enter. And I do dear, and that means I can ignore the blue line. I know it thinks there's a grammar problem. Okay, step 11 says type the following body paragraphs. Remember, you're using single-spaced blank template now, and there's no additional spacing. When you press Enter at the end of paragraphs, you have to press Enter twice. So I'm going to type in these 2 paragraphs while pausing the video so you don't watch me type them. Just remember, do not press the Enter key till they tell you to. Your words are going to wrap much differently than this, but I'm going to pause the video while I type in the 2 paragraphs, and then I will be back with you in a second to work on the line spacing together. So give me just a minute or 2 to type it in. Be back in a moment. Okay, so I'm now back, and I'm going to go ahead and work with the line spacing portions of this. It says position the insertion point anywhere in the first main paragraph. So that's this paragraph here. I am applying for the position. Step 13, choose home, paragraph, line, and paragraph spacing. So home, paragraph, line, and paragraph spacing is this one. I click it. And it says slide the mouse pointer, step 14, over the menu options and notice that live preview shows how it will look. So if I point to this one, even 3.0 gets huge, doesn't it? It says in step 15, click 3.0. Step 16 says choose home, paragraph, line, and paragraph spacing. Choose 1.0. So you go back to here and you choose 1.0. Now keep in mind, line spacing has to do with the distance between wrapping lines of a paragraph. There's also a command to separate paragraphs called spacing before and after. That works really well with bullets, so keep that in mind with bullets. It says save your letter, step 17. So I can click save up here, do file save. Aligning text horizontally and vertically. You can control how text aligns horizontally on the page using the paragraph alignment buttons. So there's 4 major alignment buttons. They're here in the home paragraph group. Left, which is this dark gray one, keeps the text on the left margin over here. Center moves it to the middle. Right alignment, and then justify. Justify makes it look more like a box. You see that a lot in technical writing. I may have you do it. I forget if the book has us do it or not, but just as a nice demonstration, it's nice to see it. I just showed you where they are. They're from the home paragraph area. Or you can go into the dialog box by clicking the Layout tab. The Page Setup dialog box launcher also gets you to the area where you can do vertical alignment. So they're talking here about vertical alignment, which is how does it line up on the page itself. We did that with the table and the resume in the last chapter where we made it line up more evenly to have a nice amount of white space at the top and bottom for the resume we made. Step number, develop your skills W3D4. I'm going to skip step number 1. We do not need to do the save as here. It says position the insertion point anywhere in the date line. So I'm going to scroll back up to see the date line. Click in there. Step number 3, choose home, paragraph, center. Home, paragraph. We're going to play with these alignment buttons. So center. See how it moves to the middle. Step 4 says choose home, paragraph, right. It's next door to center. And step 5 says choose home, paragraph, align left. So go back to left alignment. What I'd like to quickly do is I'm going to click here on the main body paragraph. Look at the right-hand edge over here of this wording. Look what happens when I click justify. See how it makes it nice and even? That's a look that you see in newspapers all the time, magazines, a lot of technical writing. So that's the purpose of what we call justify. I'm going to put it back on left alignment so it looks the way it did before. Step number 6 says position the insertion point next to the last paragraph symbol in the document. So that's here. And I just need to type the rest of this real quick, which is sincerely, and 4 enters. Okay, so we've typed in that little bit of wording. Now it says center the letter vertically. So as a reminder what this is doing, if I go to File, Print, look at how much white space is down here. Oh my goodness. And tons, I mean tons down here, but not much up here. It doesn't look very balanced. We're going to now center this letter on the page, vertically, up and down. So these are steps you'll want to remember. They're going to have you do them in the review exercises, and they're hard to remember because it's deep in there. Okay. It says scroll down to the end of the page. There's too much white space. I prefer just to go to print preview, but if you do scroll down, you'll see, whoa, there is a lot of white down there. Whoa, Nelly. And step number 9 says click the layout tab on the ribbon. So I click layout, and in the page setup area group, I click the dialog box launcher. Now it's more hidden in the Mac. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I don't remember where it is. Apologize for that. Step 11, follow these steps to center the letter vertically. Step 11A, click the layout tab here. Don't go back out up here. No, 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 no. Stay in the window that's in front of you. And in the step B says in the vertical alignment area, click here where it says top, click center. Step D says click OK. And the book says to zoom out so you could really see what it looks like. So if you want to, you could drag this slider and you can see it's much more centered now. I'm going to zoom back in. Not too huge, hopefully. That looks pretty good. And that's it for that. It says save and close the letter. So I can save it. Then I can do File, Close. I'm moving on to styles now, types of styles. There are many built-in styles, and you are always working within a style. There are 2 basic types of styles, character and paragraph. You can use the Styles Gallery and the Styles task pane to apply styles. There's what they call character styles. And if you click it, character styles used to format a single word or select group of words with text formatting such as font, bold, font size, etc. No paragraph formatting is included. And then you have paragraph styles. A style used to format a paragraph or a selected group of paragraphs may include character formatting also. So the point is character styles only do things in the font group from your home ribbon. So things in the font group like bold, italic, underline font, font color, etc. Paragraph can do all the things in the paragraph group plus the font group. Don't think that in your mind that makes paragraph styles better. They each have a purpose. Paragraph styles are really handy for headings and stuff like that, where the whole heading wording or a title, that whole wording gets the same style. Character styles are things you might do in the middle of a paragraph. Maybe every occurrence of your company name you want in a particular color or all caps or whatever, that could become a style, and you just want the name of your company or the abbreviation for the company formatted a particular way. That would have to be a character style. So be careful. Don't think paragraph styles are actually better. Okay. To get to your styles, it's basically home in the styles group. So the styles appear in this box here. Now you don't see any now because I don't have a document open or anything. You can also use the dialog box launcher to get to the styles list, which means that I'll probably need to move my picture because we're going to bring in the dialog box launcher in a little bit. Collapsing heading topics. When you apply a heading style and the insertion point is in the heading, a small triangle marker appears to the left of it. They're kind of showing you here. When you click it, and they're showing you what happens here. You don't see the text below it. And if you click it again, you'll see the text below it. So it's a way to collapse and expand the wording that goes under each heading. So it's really pretty cool. We're now going to do Develop Your Skills W3D5. I'm going to open W3D5 Social Media Report now. So File, Open. I'm going to click Browse. Hopefully I'm already in my Word Chapter 3, and I'm doing the Social Media Report W3D5 version, D5. I'm going to double click it. Basically, it's the one we did earlier, but it's just completed by the people who made the book and everything. We're going to continue in step 1, where we're going to do the save as and add the word revised to the end of the existing file name. So that's File, Save As or Save a Copy, Browse if you want. Make sure you're in Word Chapter 3 still. Click after the word report and add the word revised. I'm going to click Save. It takes a moment or two. Okay. And now it says click anywhere in the report's main heading, Social Media and Universities at the top of page 1. So I click anywhere in there. And it says choose Home Styles More button. So there's your styles here. You might see more or less based upon the size of your window. When you point to them, they preview. You see that? The More button on the Windows machine is here. On the Mac, it's slightly below all of them. And when you click it, you see all the available styles. Step number 4 says hover the mouse pointer over the title style. So here's the title style to see its effect, and then click to apply it. So it's got a preset font. It made it all caps. It did a whole bunch of things. It might have been all caps before, but I don't quite recall now. Step number 5, click the dialog box launcher in the bottom right corner of the styles group. So that's Home, Styles Group. Here's the dialog box launcher. I click it. It opens up this panel over here. Step number 6, position the insertion point in the net generation heading. So I'm going to scroll down to the wording, the net generation. I can just click in there. And then it says, then click the heading 1 style in the task pane. So I click here to do heading 1. It says in step 7, use the same technique to apply the heading 1 style to the remaining headings. First, rapid increase. So I'm going to click here and rapid increase. Got to click first. Click heading 1. Now I'm going to scroll down. The last heading we need to do is university recruiting, and click heading 1. Step 8 says close the styles task pane. So I'm going to click the select to close the styles task pane. Step 9, scroll up and position the insertion point in the net generation heading. So I click here. You don't actually have to click it because as you point, you kind of see that triangle looking thing. It's really hard to tell when the show hide is on. But when it's off, you can see it a lot better. And they want me to click that little marker, that little triangle. See how it collapsed? I don't see the wording under it anymore. I click the triangle again, I believe is step 10. to collapse the text below the heading, collapsing, and then step 11, click the marker again to re-expand it. Okay, so just know when the show hide is on, sometimes that makes that little box a little bit harder to get to that triangle. So that's about collapsing headings, really handy in longer documents so you don't have to scroll such long distances all the time. Step 12 says to save my changes. I'm going to click save. I'm now going to do the down arrow here to continue in the chapter. Inserting headers, footers, comments, and page breaks. Headers, footers appear at the top and the bottom of every page in a document, respectively above and below the margins. You can place text, page numbers, dates, and other items in the header and footer areas. When you enter information in these areas, it's repeated on every page unless you direct it otherwise. This book doesn't get into all those nitty-gritty details. There's a lot of really powerful things you could do with them, but it takes time and practice. The comment feature is a great collaboration tool that allows reviewers and originators to communicate about a document by posting comments to each other. Where these commands are found is from the insert, header and footer, header and footer group, header or footer, or page numbers if you're doing page numbers, and insert comments, comment, or layout page setup group, breaks, page breaks. So they're talking about breaks because if you do columns and things like that, sometimes you have to put breaks in, or if you want to make certain sections number differently than another section, you need what are called section breaks. So this step I'm not going to do where it says step 1 of exercise, develop your skills W3D6. It says save your file as W3D6 social media report revised. We're not going to change it here just to have a D6. I'm going to go on to step 2. I'm going to choose insert, header and footer. So that's insert, tap first, header and footer group. I'm going to click header and choose sideline. Now, for some reason on your machine, you can't find the sideline one. Just choose something that would be close, but my Word PC has sideline. So I'm going to click sideline once, and it now puts me in the top margin, which is also the header area. Here's where step 3 comes in. Click the document title. So just click on the wording document title. See how it highlights it in its own special way? And I type, according to step 3, my virtual campus. Step 7, my eyes jumped on me. Step 4, double click in the document to close the header. Notice how the lighter wording is in the header because it means your cursor's out of the header area. So when you're in the header, the text body area here gets lighter. When you're in the body area, the header and the footer get lighter. That's normal. Don't worry about it. Step 5, choose insert, header and footer, page number. So that's insert, header and footer group, page number, and select bottom of page. And they want me to find, according to the next step, large color 3. Here's large color 3, and I click it. It says in step 7, double click in the document to close the footer area. Now I'm on step 8. Double click the footer area to open the footer area. They want to show you if you ever have to edit or do something, you could just double click down here and add to it if you want. And then as part of step 8 says double click back in the document to close it. Step 9, scroll through the report and observe the headers and footers. So look at the top of page 2, we have the My Virtual Campus heading. And down at the bottom of page 2, we have the page number. Now it says in step 10, position the insertion point in front of the word Instagram in the first table. So they're now talking about page breaks. So here's Instagram. They want to move this to page 2 to make the table look a little more balanced. So we're going to bring in a page break. It says position the insertion point in front of the word Instagram in the first table and hold down the control key, press enter. It automatically made that area move down to page 2. We're now going to add a comment. Step 11, scroll to the top of the document and select the word universities. Now, they don't specify if it's in the title or the first word of the paragraph. It really doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to do it in the title. And it says in step 12, choose insert comments comment. That's insert comments group comment. And I just need to type what is there in step 12. The line that says Jose And after you type it, you can just click back in the document if you want, whatever you want to do. You'll notice this, when you point to it, links to that comment, or if they click on the wording, the comment's already showing anyways, but it's neat when you point to it, it kind of symbolizes the anchor point, like they said. Step 13 says save and then close the report. So I'm going to do a save, and then I'm going to do a file close. We're going to progress forward in the book to now the point of a bit of work here. Or actually not yet, good. It's arranging text in multiple columns. You can use newspaper style columns, also known as newsletter style columns, to arrange text in multiple columns. In this layout, text flows down one column to the next. So they're showing you an example of what text would kind of look like here. That's what columns looks like. You can use the dialog box where you could bring in a line between. You can specify different widths. Those are presets. You find this from the layout ribbon, page setup, columns group. One thing that you need to know about columns is this part here about column breaks and section breaks. You can manually force a column to end by inserting a column break, thus moving the text at the breakpoint to the top of the next column. This technique is often used to place headings at the top of the columns and to balance columns on the last page. Whenever you make a document level formatting change that doesn't apply to the entire document, you need one or more section breaks. So you're taking a bigger document and making an area of it that's going to have columns, and the rest of it stays with one column. Okay, so there's different types of section breaks. There's a next page section break, a continuous, that's the most common one, odd page and even page. Those are all found from the layout ribbon. So you know, they mentioned it above, I believe, or it's coming here. Following illustration shows the use of continuous section breaks. So it means that this area between the section breaks can be two columns while the rest of it is one column. Pretty cool. So you find this from the layout ribbon, the page setup group breaks. There's a column break. You can also go to layout page setup breaks and get page breaks or other types of section breaks. Okay, so we're going to develop your skills W3D7, which says open W3D7 SocMed for staff. And we're going to do the regular save as. It's part of the same step, and add the word revised afterwards. So remember, some of these steps tend to have more than one thing. So first I'm going to open, file, open. I'm going to click browse, make my way into my folder. Word, chapter 3. It's Soc. Let me make sure W3D7, SocMed for staff. Do my save as, file. Mine's save a copy, but it's the same thing. I can click here after the file name, and I can add the word revised. Remember, some of you have to go to browse or whatever you need to do. Depends on your version of Word. Okay. Says in step 2, if necessary, display formatting marks. Well, I've left mine on, as you can see. Step 3, position the insertion point in the second blank line following the first paragraph. So that's this one here. Step 4, choose layout, page setup, breaks, continuous. So that's layout, page setup group, breaks, continuous. Step 5, delete the blank line at the top of the second section. So in other words, I could just press delete now. Step number 6, position the insertion point in the second section. Here you are, down here it means below that kind of section line. Step number 7 says choose layout, page setup, columns 2. So that's layout, page setup, columns 2. And then scroll to page 2 and notice that the columns are not well balanced. So as I scroll down here to page 2, you'll see that the columns are not all that well balanced. We're going to fix that by bringing in what's called a column break. Step number 9 says position the insertion point at the beginning of the last paragraph in the left column. So that's this paragraph here, in the real world. So I click right by the I of in the real world. And then I need to go to step 10, choose layout, page setup, breaks, layout, page setup, breaks, and choose column. Now it's balanced it really well. So the book says we can save and close the file. So I'm going to do save, then I'm going to do file, close. Okay, so we're going to continue on to the next portion of the book here. I'm going to go down to the down arrow here and continue in the book. So now we're on writing a research paper. So a research paper has things like footnotes, endnotes, and citations. They're talking briefly here at the front part of this exercise about MLA and different types of writing standards that come in, APA, MLA, etc. They all have certain rules about the line spacing and the formatting of your footnotes and endnotes. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. I can let you read that all on your own. This chapter does not presume to be a resource for MLA guidelines or APA guidelines. You can always go to the websites and look up what those requirements are if you're writing an official paper like a master's or a thesis or something, maybe a college paper that's really requiring it. Just what footnotes, endnotes, and citations are, they're basically forms of giving credit to other people's ideas. Footnotes appear at the bottom of the page where there's a little number. So oftentimes you'll see writing that has a little number, and then at the bottom of that page is an explanation of what that number means. Endnotes mean that they go to the end of the actual document. And then citations are little things in parentheses next to the end of a sentence that says this idea came from, and you usually have the author or something like that, their name. And then you can do what's called a works cited page, which is very similar to that of a bibliography. They're basically the same thing where you're listing all the books and crediting all the people who gave you the actual information. Okay, so without further ado, when we cite sources that would end out in that bibliography and stuff, we have to fill out this box. We can cite websites, we can cite books, we can cite all that kind of stuff. I'll give you a chance if you want to watch these videos on your own. They're going to be found from the references ribbon: footnotes, references, citations, and bibliography, insert citation. They're all very similar, just used for different forms of writing. Sometimes you just need to ask your instructor what do they prefer, and they'll let you know. So we're going to do develop your skills W3D8. It says in step number 1 that I'm going to open, scrolled a little too much. I'm going to open W3D8 Internet, and I'm going to save it as W3D8 Internet Revised. So once again, I'm going to do a file, open. I'm going to do browse, and it's W3D8 Internet. I open it up. Now I can do my save as, right? File, in my version it's save a copy, but yours it's save as, maybe. I can click browse, or in my case it's easier, I can just click here after the file name, add the word revised, and then I can click save. And I'm going to move into step 2. It says if necessary, choose view, views, print layout. So remember that's the view ribbon. If you need to change views, it's here, and make sure you're on print layout. If you want to click it, you can. You're likely in it. It's pretty rare you're not. Step number 3 just has a little bit of typing for us. It says position the insertion point at the top of the document. Well, I'm already blinking there. And I'm going to type what I see in step 3. This is what you normally do in a class setting, like school, whatever it may be. Oops. Okay, notice the paragraph text is double-spaced and extra space after the paragraphs has been removed per MLA requirements. You'll now insert footnotes. Step 4, position the insertion point to the right of the period at the end of the first paragraph. So here's the end of the first paragraph. I just click here, and it ends out after being after the period after marketplace there. Okay, see it there? Step 5 is actually how we insert the footnote. Trust the computer to handle the numbering, okay? We go to the References tab now. References, a new tab. We haven't been there yet. In the Footnotes group, make sure you're doing a footnote. Click Insert Footnote. Read them carefully. Insert footnote. Step 6A says follow these steps to complete the footnote. Find a separator line and the footnote number. Type this text in. That's this text here in the little box here that says, this is the opinion of many business leaders. And they have a period afterwards. Step 7, use the same process to insert the footnote reference marks and the associated footnotes shown here. So it says we need to line up after inexpensive access. So I click at the end of that sentence after the period. I go to References, Footnotes, Insert Footnote. It automatically makes the number 2 and drops me down there. And I need to type in what I see in this little box. I know it's small, but I'll just type it in. It's some nations still pirates. Competition. And don't press enter or anything. We're now ready for the third footnote. I click after the word commerce after the period. Repeat the procedure, references, footnotes, insert footnote. And I just type this sentence now, these factors. So as you can see, a footnote is kind of like a little notation about what information is being talked about in that particular area. And if you feel like it, you can just click back in the document if you're worried. Okay. So the default formatting of footnotes in Word does not adhere to MLA requirements. The text should use the same formatting as the body of the document, double-spaced, first line indented. You'll format the footnotes later. Right now, we're going to convert our footnotes to endnotes just so you can see what it looks like, and if you have to change your mind, you can easily flip them from footnotes to endnotes or from endnotes to footnotes. Step number 8 says choose References, Footnotes, Dialog Box Launcher. So References, Footnotes, here's the dialog box launcher. And here I just need to click Convert. This is step number 8, still Convert. Step 9 says when the Convert Notes dialog box opens, click OK. Now you'll notice they're no longer at the bottom of page 1. I'm going to click Close here. Step 10 says scroll through the document and notice the footnotes became endnotes. They're at the very end of the entire document. You'll also notice that they got Roman numerals instead of regular numbering. That's typical with an endnote. Don't worry about it. Step number 11 says choose References, Footnotes, Dialog Box Launcher again and click Convert. So that's References, Footnotes, Dialog Box Launcher. Click Convert again. It's going to convert all endnotes to footnotes this time. Click OK. Click Close because they want me to close it. That's step 12. Click OK and then close it. Step 13, choose References, Citations, and Bibliography style menu button. So that's References, Citations, and Bibliography. Notice here where it says APA. We want to click there, and we want to choose MLA 7th edition. Step number 14 says, at the end of the first paragraph on page 2, position the insertion point between the word online and the period and press the spacebar because we're now going to do some citations. Okay? So at the end of the first paragraph on page 2, let me scroll up slightly. Okay, this is page 2. Between the period and the word online, it's said to click. Step number 15, spacebars. Now step 15, choose References, Citations, and Bibliography, insert citation. So References, Citations, and Bibliography, insert citation. And then it says choose Add New Source. Now this looks very different on a Macintosh, but the students who did it last semester kind of figured things out. You have to click a little arrow at the bottom to expand all the fields and choose the different types. It says follow these steps to create the new source to insert as the citation. Step A says click where it says type of source here, and you have to scroll the little list and click website. What that does is it brings in more fields. These are called fields going down the left. And then we just type in everything we're seeing here. One of the easiest ways to do it is to actually click in the boxes and type, or you can sometimes use your tab key. So I'm going to type this in as best I can. So I type in Swanee, comma, Chris, and then I can click here where it says name of web page, and I have to type all that in. Let me move my mouse slightly for you. Okay, then if I can get down to the year box by pressing tab, I can type 2009. I can press tab. Now I'm in the month. I can type March. I can press tab. I can type 3. I can press tab. 2021 is the year assessed. I can press tab. March again. I can press tab. The 10. Now it's a big long website. If you don't get it all typed in accurately, it's okay, but it's normally you try to copy and paste that in if you can get back to the website. And it's also very hard to read here. At least in the digital book, you can actually click it to expand it a little bit to make it a little bit bigger. You have to get all of these weird little slashes in here. If there's one mistake, the link doesn't work. But we're not worried about the link actually working correctly. We're more concerned of, are you referencing what you need to reference? Do you understand how to fill in this box? Okay. And then it says, notice that it automatically puts on its own tag code here. That's okay. Step E says to go ahead and click OK. So I'm going to click OK. So it puts the name Swanee here, giving a reference to who that does. Step below here is a note that says, remember, Word does not follow all the MLA guidelines. That's okay. Step 17, on page 2, position the insertion point at the end of the third bullet between themselves and the period, and press the space bar. Now we're going to add in what's called a placeholder. A placeholder means that you don't know all that information that we just typed in for the website and everything, but you want to put the author's name here or something to get back to it later. So if I remember correctly, there's a small problem in the book here because it says choose references, citations, and bibliography, insert citation, then choose add new placeholder. So it's references, citations, and bibliography, insert citation, add new placeholder. Let's see what happens when we type Fowler. The previous version of the book had a problem when we type Fowler saying it's already there. So let's see when we click OK. Oh, good. They fixed it. Good. Excellent. Okay. No problem after all. Freshness. Step number 20. Position the insertion point at the end of the document between the word years and the period. Press the space bar. Step 21. References, citations, and bibliography. Insert citation. Add another new placeholder. Add new placeholder. And it says in step 22, type MOG for the name, and then click OK. Now we have another placeholder. So I'm going to click Save now. And I'm going to move on to the next portion here of editing and formatting our footnotes and citations. You can edit footnote text directly in the footnote area in addition to editing the text of a footnote. You can also reposition it. If you reposition it, the numbering will automatically update. You can also format it. So you could highlight the text down in the footnote area, make it double space, single space, whatever you need to do. You can do all that. You can also just delete a footnote by deleting the little number. If you delete the little number in the body of the text area, it deletes the footnote altogether. And everything will renumber appropriately. Okay. I know this is a lot of info. It's a lot coming kind of quick. You might not need to use it. Just do the best you can. So we're on Develop Your Skills, W3D9. I'm not going to do the Save As. Step 2 says position the insertion point at the beginning of the second paragraph on page 1. Okay, the beginning of the second paragraph on page 1. I think that's the second paragraph. Yeah. Okay. And scroll if necessary to see the 3 footnote references. Okay, there's my 3 footnote references. Step number 3, choose References, Footnotes dialog box launcher to display the footnote and note dialog box. So that's References, Footnotes, dialog box launcher. Step 4, if necessary at the top of the dialog box, choose Footnotes. It's not necessary for me. Step 5, in the number format field where it says 1, 2, 3, we're going to click there and choose A, B, C. So I click A, B, C, and then I click Apply. Notice how it now says A, B, C. Step 6, choose References, Footnotes dialog box launcher. Change the number format back to the first option. So that's References, Footnotes, dialog box launcher. I click here, number format, ABC, and go back to 1, 2, 3. Click Apply. Now they're back to 1, 2, 3. Step number 7, if necessary, choose View, Show Ruler. My ruler is already showing, so it's not something I need to do. Step 8, select the 3 footnotes at the bottom of the page. So you highlight these 3 footnotes like this. Doesn't matter if the number's highlighted, it will still work. Change the line spacing to double. So that's home, paragraph, line spacing. 2.0 means double. Step the second bullet under number 8, change the font size to 11. Click here and choose 11. And step number 8, the third bullet, on the ruler, drag the first line indent marker to the ½ mark. So here's my first line indent, that top triangle, drag it to the ½ inch. Okay, and that's the look that you're supposed to have according to MLA. Step number, we're going to delete and edit footnotes and edit citation placeholders. We're going to select the reference mark following marketplace in the body document and tap delete. So I'm going to go here next to this number 1. I'm going to click after it. I'm going to press, actually they say following marketplace. Oh, so following marketplace, that means before the number 1. I apologize, I misread that. And I press the delete key, it highlights it. Then I press delete again to actually get rid of it. You'll notice that although it's gone, it's renumbered these other 2 automatically. Isn't that cool? Step number 10 says click undo. We want to bring it back. They just wanted to show you if you delete the little marker up here in the document, it deletes the footnote down here. Okay. Position the insertion point between the last word and the period of the first footnote. So down here in the first footnote area, below the line, click after the word leaders before the period and add the 2 words in step 11. Press the space bar and type "and economists." Okay. Step number 12 says scroll to the Fowler citation at the end of the third bullet on page 2. Follow these steps to open the edit source dialog box. So Fowler on page 2. Down here is Fowler. I'm going to click the down arrow. This is step 13, 13A. I've clicked the menu as B. Step C, edit source. Be sure to choose edit source, gets you back into this box. I'm going to do the typing here for step 14 as a reminder. If you don't quite get all the typing in here as easily as you need to, you have to really pay attention to the fields on the left. You're just going to click in a box. You can type, make sure it says web source up here first. You're going to go in the author box and you're going to follow what you see in the book here. So it's Fowler, Jeffrey. I can do tab a few times to get down to the name of the web page. So I'm doing the title. I'm going to tab to 2009, March again, 3 again, 20, 21, March again. I'm just tabbing to get down to the next area. And then where medium is basically the web page. So I have to type in all this. And I'm almost there. Normally you try to copy and paste that in if you could. Then it says to click OK. It says that was step 15. Step 16 says click yes if a message appears asking if you want to update the master list. I would not ask any question. Step 17, if necessary, click the menu button to the right of the Fowler citation and choose edit citation. And then check the title box to suppress the title. So sometimes what happens to people is it will say Fowler here with the title of the web page. What they're saying is if you click this little down arrow here, you can choose edit citation. If need be, you can suppress the title. I don't actually have to do it, so I don't have to do step 17. I can click cancel. Step 18, I'm going to scroll down to the MOG citation placeholder, very end of the document here. Step 19, I click the menu button, and I'm going to choose edit source. I'm going to do all the typing here in the book, so I'm going to pause the video briefly while I do the typing. So I got my typing in. I'm now on step 21 where it says click OK, and then save my changes to the file. Do remember you might have to suppress the title here. If you do need to, you click this arrow, edit citation. Suppress means don't show. You click title if need be. If it says MOG and then has some big long title there. So it said save the file. Now we're moving on in the book here to this really cool part, working with a bibliography. So all the magic of putting in all that source information, we can now build our bibliography, our works cited page. So a bibliography is a list of all those cited things where you got all that useful information, those ideas that weren't your own, but support the facts you want to say. So I'm going to do, it's found from the references, citations, and bibliography group, bibliography. I'm going to do W3D10, develop your skills now. Step number 1, when we're not going to do that, save as. Step number 2 says position the insertion point at the end of the document. So I click here at the end of the document, right here. Or actually, I could go here. The only drawback is you bring this weird little tab with you. So I'm actually going to backspace that out. And I'm going to go ahead and do step 2. I'm going to do Control-Enter. Brings me down to the new page. Step 3 is home, paragraph, center alignment. So home, paragraph group, center alignment. And it says in step number 3 to also type the 2 words works cited. I'm going to scroll so you can see a little better. And afterwards, I press enter. That's still part of step 3. Step number 4 says choose references, citations, and bibliography, bibliography. So that's the references tab, citations and bibliography group, bibliography. And step 5, choose insert bibliography. And it brings up our bibliography. Freshness. It says scroll up to the second page and click the Fowler citation, and then click the menu button. So what they're going to ask us to do is to look at the Fowler one here. We're going to change one of these dates. We're going to change this from the 3rd to the 10th or something like that. So one of these 2 dates is going to change, okay? And we're going to have to do some magic to make it happen. So step 6 says come up here to the Fowler citation, click its down arrow, click that menu button, choose edit source, very carefully there. And they say change the day access to 10. So the day access, so the 14 changes to a 10. Click OK. So it says if the citation picked up the name of the citation in that other wording, you have to edit the citation. I don't seem to have to. Step 10, scroll down to the works cited page. Notice the date still says 14. Don't fix it here. The magic is it wants to get the data from that source. So we're going to fix that now with step 11. We're going to right click in this bibliography. Whoops. Don't know why I didn't get it all. And we're going to just choose update field. Notice how it now has a 10. Isn't that really cool? So it grabs it from the source area because you want to make sure the source area is complete. Okay. Step 12, select the bibliography list, but not the works cited title. So here's where it's going to be really interesting to people. See, when I click in here, it already looks highlighted, but it's not. I need to point here at the beginning of Fowler. I got to make it super dark. See that? Now it's truly highlighted. Step 13 is to choose home, paragraph group, line spacing, 2.0. Then it says save the file. So I can save my changes. I'm going to move on to the next portion of the chapter, which I believe is about working with figures and a table of figures, table of captions and all that. Captions are basically wording underneath a picture, like illustration, whatever. Figure, whatever, which when you have these longer documents, you can get people to your diagrams or your illustrations faster because you have, instead of a table of contents, you have a table of figures. So I'm going to start going through the lesson here. You could do that little pre-reading if you need to. I'm going to do develop your skills, W3D11. I'm not going to do the save as, so I'm going to step 2. Step number 2 says position the insertion point after the 3rd footnote reference mark in the body of the document, not the footnote area. Okay, very clear here, not the footnote area, not. So it's after the number 3 here. okay? And it says in step 3, press enter. And then it says do control enter to do a page break. Okay. Step number 4 says choose insert text. Step 4, insert text object menu buttons. That's insert tab, text group. This is very important. You can't see the word object, but what's really, really important is you got to get to that menu. You have to. It's really, really important. And then you're going to choose text from file. It opens up a dialog box. And according to step number 5, we want to bring in W3D11 evolution. So you can click on it and then click insert. Now it might take a minute or two because it's a pretty large file. There we go. And it's got a bunch of these, they like to call them slides because it looks like little mini PowerPoint, if you want to call it that. And it says, if necessary, display formatting marks and then reposition the insertion point in the first blank line below the first slide. So I'm scrolling up to the first slide, which is this DOD and ARPANET. I'm clicking directly below the slide. Now we're going to bring in wording that what this slide means. Okay? That's what a caption is. So step 7, choose references, captions, insert caption. References tab, captions group, insert caption. We want the wording figure 1 because step 8 says if figure 1 does not appear in the caption box, follow the following steps here. I don't need to do step 8 because it says figure 1. Otherwise, I click here and I can change it from figure to something else. The computer is managing the numbering, so don't worry about that, okay? I'm now on step number 9. If necessary, position the insertion point to the right of the figure 1 up here in the caption box. Step 10 says press my spacebar and type capital DOD and ARPANET. Net actually. And then click OK to insert the caption. So see how it inserts this little caption and it's formatted in a neat way? Step 11 says choose home paragraph center. For those who didn't know, if you don't want to continue to go back and forth between ribbons, there's a shortcut key for center, which is Control E. On Mac, that'd be Command E as in Edward. So I'm going to do the shortcut key method instead of going to home, paragraph center, knowing in the few steps I'm going to have to come back to references, insert caption. So instead of taking the longer route, I'm going to do the shortcut key instead. Step 12 says position the insertion point in the first blank line below the second slide. So the 1970 slide here. Step number 13, choose references, captions, insert caption. So references, captions, insert caption. Step 14, press the space bar after that number 2 and type capital NSF. Then click OK. Step 15 says to center it. So instead of going to the home ribbon, I'm just going to do Control E. Now it's in the center. Step 16 says add these captions and then center them. So I'm going to walk through them. I'm going to click right below the third slide. References, captions, insert caption. Spacebar to get away from the 3. And I'm going to type MILNET and TCP/IP. I click OK. I'm going to center it with Control E or Command E if you're on a Mac. Scrolling down to the 4th slide, click on the first blank line below the first slide. References, captions, insert caption. My space bar. I'm just doing the typing. I click OK. They want me to center it. Control E. Click below the 5th slide. References, captions, insert caption. Press the space bar, type Netscape. Click OK. Center it. Click below the 6th slide. References, captions, insert caption. Space bar. What's that? 14. Whoops. One more E. Years of evolution. Click OK. Do Control E. And in fact, I should have mentioned it. You could actually even press the Enter key if you really wanted. References, captions, insert caption. Spacebar, type delivery. drones. I can press enter. Then I can do Control E. As you can see, I have a typo. I can just right-click the word as a reminder. There's the correct spelling. And now we're going to edit a caption. Step 17 says, return to slide 2, select NSF, and type National Science Foundation in its place. So I don't fix it in a special box. I just scroll up here to the second one where it says Figure 2, highlight NSF, and type National Science Foundation instead. Okay. Now I'm going to save my changes, and here's where the real magic appears. Not only did you put a beautiful little caption underneath each slide telling what it's about, you're going to now insert what's called a table of figures. So much like a table of contents, it's going to have page numbers next to where each one of these graphics are. So if you have a very large paper and you want to talking to an audience, you say, hey, everybody, let's get to this particular graphic, this chart, whatever it may be. You can tell them, really look in our table of figures. It says it's on page blah, 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 and get people to that page real quickly. How we bring it in, it's from the references ribbon again, the captions group, insert table of figures. I'm going to go on now to develop your skills W3D12. I'm going to skip the save as. It says move the insertion point to the top of the document. So for those who don't remember, that's Control Home is one way to do it, or you can just scroll whatever way works best for you. Before you begin, move the insertion point to the top of the document before the word Brian. Do Control Enter now. That makes that page break if you don't quite recall. Step 3 says do Control Home to put the cursor back at the top, the very, very top there. Also part of step 3, it says type table of figures. And it says to press enter twice afterwards. Step number 4, center the heading and bold and 16-point font for table of figures. So highlight table of figures, home, font, bold, size 16, and home paragraph center. Whoops, I'm sorry, I missed. Center or Control E. Okay. Now it says in step 5, click the insertion point in the blank line below the heading. Choose references, captions, insert table of figures. So references, captions, insert table of figures. Step 7, A, here where it says format and it says from template, click and choose distinctive. And the caption label should say figure still. All we have to do now, that was step B. Step C says click OK. And look at the magic. It tells you what page each of those graphics is on. Isn't that really, really awesome? I love that. Step 8 says to save and close the file. So I can do save. Then I can do file, close. I'm going to go down to the last portion of the chapter, which talks about tracking changes. They don't actually have us do any steps. As you can see, it's just reading. So I'm going to let you read that more on your own, but tracking changes means when you're working with other collaborators, it can show the changes that they've made, so you can review those changes without trying to find them in the document. So I'll leave that up to you to read, mainly because they don't have an exercise on it. I don't find it to be that useful for you. And as another quick reminder, there's plenty of practice for you when you go to the next page of the book. It goes to the little quiz they normally have. After the quiz, you get the review exercises called Reinforce Your Skills, followed by the Apply Your Skills exercises that are usually kind of an orangish color. As you can see, these ones are a little bit long. This was kind of a longer chapter, a lot of weird little intricate typing and a lot of the weird little intricate skills. And here ends out being your Apply Your Skills. We're hoping you get through as many of those, or at least I am, as you can during our semester together, or work on your own even after class has ended. So I hope this tutorial helps you. Thank you much.